What's going on? Welcome back to the Climb the Pocket YouTube page. My name is Steve, as always, with my co-host Ryan. Find him on Twitter at Bootleg Fantasy. Find me at Steve_CTP and follow the Climb the Pocket Twitter at Climb the Pocket. Guys, it is fantasy football season. A lot of you guys have done your drafts. We have NFL football, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, actually Thursday, but the big day is Sunday. It's when everyone's fantasy lineups are fully engaged. Everyone's staring at their phone, watching the plays, watching the score go up, or maybe watching your score not go up. And that's the fun of fantasy football, the ups and downs. But I'm excited. I had a couple drafts this week. I know Ryan did some drafts. But, hey, guys, it's not too late. People still got drafts, and we got some bold predictions we're putting on the board. Don't say I said it until you put it, until you record it. I'm recording it right now. These are our bold predictions. If they happen, you better come back. Watch this video. Give us some props. Got some bold ones for you. Ryan, you got some bold ones?
Oh, I mean, I've been extremely bold. If you go back to last year's video, I was super right on David Montgomery, and I was super wrong on Josh Allen. So if you can go back and find that.
I remember the Josh Allen take.
Oh, I think I had him outside the top 10 is what my take was.
Well, we got some hot ones for you today, for sure.
Yeah, I had Demont finishing as a top 8 running back and Josh Allen outside the top 10. So, I'd be a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer at 500.
Be a fantastic three-point shooter.
Oh, I'm a three-point specialist, obviously, but I think I've got one that's super hot, one that's relatively hot, and then two other ones that definitely I think are going to happen. I think all of these are going to happen. But the likelihood that my hottest one happens, and it's a little self-inflicted wound. I don't think that's like a slam dunk to happen, but it's within thick realm of possibility, and I think it happens this year.
All right, so Ryan's aren't as bold. They're possible, which bold is less than, I don't know, 10%?
Yeah. Okay, so I don't like getting yelled at on Twitter, so obviously I didn't go as scorching the earth as some people do on Twitter. But these are hot takes that aren't ridiculous takes. I think yours are probably within the same realm where you get the people thinking. You're not going to just say some nonsense and then somebody yells at you for 20 minutes on Twitter. There's some actual thought behind these ideas, and I'm sure that's where you are with this. That's where I was with Josh Allen last year, and I was wrong, but I think these are all going to happen this year.
All right, if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Next week starts our start-sit videos, Old Famous. You're going to want to check those out every single week. Subscribe, ring the bell, drop comments, all of that. Like the video. We appreciate it. Let's roll right into it, Ryan. What's your first bold prediction for 2021 fantasy football?
Yeah, so this isn't my hottest one, but Devonte Adams, he outscores everybody in PPR formats. Every single player in fantasy football, he outscores.
Quarterbacks too?
Quarterbacks.
Wow.
Everybody.
All right.
Everybody and their mother is getting outscored by Devonte Adams this year. And you say, Ryan, that's ridiculous. Quarterbacks score like 400 points a season. How does that happen? Well, Devonte Adams had 358.4 points last year. You said that's pretty close to 400. Well, he did it in 14 games, and he averaged 25.6 points. There were 3 guys that averaged more points than him last year. One was Dak Prescott, one was Marcus Mariota, and one was Christian McCaffrey. So he was the only one. Yeah, he was the only one to do it for more than I think 5 games. I really think that he's a game breaker this year. It's the last stand with him and Aaron Rodgers. They're both on weird contract situations. He could score 400 points this year, and I don't think that would shock anybody. But no one thinks that way. Davonte Adams, if you're in a PPR league, shouldn't be going 8 or 9 or 10 where he's going. He should be a top 4 pick. And I think that's where the hot take part comes in. Like he's a top 3 or 4 player, and if he outscores everybody, doesn't that make him the best player in fantasy football? I think so. I mean, he had 0.3 points more per game than Josh Allen, and 0.4 more per game than Alvin Kamara. And Alvin Kamara is not going to touch Drew Brees' numbers, and there's probably some regression for Josh Allen, and he was the only guy to score 400 points last year. So Devonte Adams outscores everybody, and he hits that 400-point plateau.
Yeah, I definitely like that one, man. Devonte Adams, he's going too late. If you're in a PPR league, you need to strongly consider him as a top 5 pick.
Did I pick him in my home draft this year? Yes, I did.
People are getting persuaded that they need to take a running back. When it's PPR, it is a different story in that first round with these game-changing wide receivers like Devonte Adams. His target share is unreal. He's going to finish in the top 5, almost guaranteed. And that's the path to a 400-point player that's not a quarterback. So I like that bold prediction. My first bold prediction is, I'm not just going off a little hype from the past preseason game, but Trevor Lawrence, top 10 quarterback. I don't know if that's too bold because there is always a quarterback who's drafted outside the top 12. I think usually one or two that finish inside the top 12. And I think Trevor Lawrence can be that guy. There's a couple different factors that go into this. The Jaguars might not be good. Urban Meyer might not be a great head coach. It might not lead them to getting ahead in football games, which would also be good for fantasy if the running back wasn't doing it for Trevor Lawrence. But maybe they'll be playing from behind a lot, and I do project that. The team, the defense, still not great, but they do have some pretty good weapons on offense. He has Marvin Jones at his disposal. Laviska Shenault looks to take a pretty big leap this year. He looked really good in that last preseason game. I think him and Trevor Lawrence can gain a pretty good connection. And I can see Trevor Lawrence, like I said, passing from behind in a lot of games, having a decent amount of 300-yard games. That'll do to you with a couple, with a lot of 2 touchdowns, maybe some 3 touchdowns, and maybe even some more than that games. Definitely possible if he can manage the ball, which he seemed to do pretty well in college. He's one of the best quarterbacks we've seen in a while. He's one of the best talents we've seen coming to the league in a while, one of the best prospects. If he can take care of the ball, not like a guy like Daniel Jones, who has probably a record amount of fumbles in his rookie season, and then next season still not taking care of the football. If he can do that, I think the path to a top 10 quarterback is not out of the question. Like I said, these teams that aren't that great at defense usually produce a lot of good fantasy players, which is why people are getting higher on Marvin Jones. Laviska Shenault has been, pretty high in everyone's mind throughout the summer, and even now going into drafts, or if you had your draft, I'm sure he went a little earlier than when he was going in the summer. So Trevor Lawrence has all the opportunity. The only thing I'd say they're missing is, Travis Etienne. Obviously, I think that would have helped on a lot of the third down game to the running backs, and also a tight end game, RIP Tebow. But I think they can still get it done with the pass catchers they do have. It's not the worst core in the NFL at all when it comes to the offense. So, and James Robinson's still there. He was great last year. So I think Trevor Lawrence, top 10 QB, not out of the question. Not my most bold take, because I think other people might have other rookies finishing as the top 10, whether it's Trey Lance or Justin Fields on a points per game basis whenever he does hit the field. But Trevor Lawrence, he's going to be the starter all 16 games, our 17 games, and top 10. I'm predicting that. So let's go ahead and move on to your second.
Yeah, I mean, this is a perfect segue. One, the disrespect for McCorkle Jones. Through the roof. Mac Jones, QB1 now in New England after Cam Newton finds himself out of there. For people keep saying it's a vaccination thing. Cam Newton, for as much as I love him, he looked washed. And in comes Mac Jones, and in comes Jacoby Myers, who's going to go for 1,100 yards this year. And the wide receiver one of the quarterback you just touched on, Marvin Jones, is also going to go for 1,100 yards this year. Usually with rookie quarterbacks, I like staying away from the outside options. But it was very clear that Marvin Jones and Jacoby Myers had the trust of those guys. And I don't know what the screen looks like if you've got both of these guys up there. I'm willing to throw Corey Davis in here as well, that he's going over 1,100 yards as well. The number sounds weird.
It's a parlay.
Yeah. All three of these guys are going to be 1,100-yard receivers. The number sounds weird, but it's a 17-week season, and 1,000 yards doesn't have the same sting that it did before. No. So 1,100 yards for Corey Davis, Marvin Jones, and Jacoby Myers with rookie quarterbacks. I think it's a passing league. These guys have grown up passing the football. I mean, when you look at all three of those quarterbacks, you see big arms, you see smart guys, and you see developed guys that are ready to swing the ball, and they're not just going to hand the ball off. the run game is very questionable for all three of those teams, so they're going to have to throw the ball. James Robinson's the best running back of those three teams. Damian Harris I like a little bit. Stevenson's fine. And then you get into New York, and I don't even know who the week 1 starter is. I think Tevin Coleman took the preseason week 2 snaps. Ugly. So Marvin Jones, Corey Davis, Jacoby Myers, all going to be very viable. Possible flex options. I mean, with those numbers, they're looking like flex guys to me. So I'm definitely making sure that those guys are all on my radar.
Bold prediction, Corey Davis, top 10 in targets for wide receivers.
Whew.
Bold.
I would love that since, I like doing these videos after I've drafted my main team, and Corey Davis is on there.
I took Jacoby Myers, so I like your prediction.
Oh, yeah, Jacoby Myers.
And I love the Mac Jones news.
Here's another bold prediction for Jacoby Myers. He finally finds the end zone. I don't know if you saw the tweet I put out today, but he's started 10 games. He's got, I think, like 900 and some odd yards. Hasn't scored a receiving touchdown. Not one. So I don't know if that's a bold take that a guy who's never scored a touchdown in 2 years scores one, but that's an honorable mention for me.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on to my second bold prediction. All the hype they've gotten over the offseason and going into drafts, none of the Bengals' offensive players finish at top 12 at the position. None of them. So these wide receivers, Jamar Chase, Boyd, and T. Higgins, I don't know how many people had them as a top 12. I think people were pretty high on Higgins. Some people have some bold predictions, him being a top 12 receiver. I don't think that happens. I think it's even possible. Another bold prediction. It's possible none of these guys finish right as a wide receiver 2. It's possible. It's a bold take, but it's possible. We are really high, and a lot of people were really high on the Bengals offense without seeing it yet. We've seen what Dallas has done with their wide receiver core, at least in the little sample we got with Dak Prescott in the first 4 games last year. We're running with that. We're like, we saw it, we know it's going to happen again. We haven't seen this with this offense yet, this revamped offense. Joe Burrow was a rookie last year, threw an insane amount of times, got injured, coming back. People have him as a top 12 quarterback. There's a decent chance he doesn't finish as one, because how you come back from this ACL tear, it wasn't super early in the season. There's certain players that tore their ACL around the same time, and they're going on the pup. And I'm not saying that's going to completely hinder his performance, but he hasn't really played much in the preseason at all. So we really haven't seen anything. Jamar Chase has the drops. Joe Mixon, let's mention him. And there's some Joe Mixon truthers out there. There's some people that hate him. I don't think there's a middle ground for Joe Mixon. But we've seen it plenty of times where he's gone down with injury multiple times a year. It seems kind of like a lost talent. If he was on another team, maybe he would have had a different career. Just completely. But he's on the Bengals. And if the Bengals offense isn't all what it's hyped up to be, Joe Mixon isn't going to finish as a top 12 running back. Right now he's being drafted as probably RB12 there.
He's like, he was, I think he was taken at like pick 19 or 20 in my home league.
So what other offense have you thought about? Like, we're thinking about the Bengals, they're going to be some elite offense where I don't think any of the players are going to finish as top 12. They don't have a number 1 position player.
Dude, Jamar Chase. Like a slight sidebar here. Jamar Chase looks terrible.
Yeah.
He looks like he can't separate, and he looks like he's afraid to get hit.
I mean, you take a year off from football. You have to factor it. And I didn't hear anyone talk about that at all
for sure.
Offseason.
But he was picked, what, 6th?
Yep.
5th, 6th? Something like that? Maybe 4th? I forget where he was taken.
We're not poo-pooing his future career.
No,
but he will have an adjustment period, and I do not think it will bode a good fantasy season.
No, I'm firmly away from Jamar Chase this year.
Yeah.
Maybe he gives you something down the stretch, but the way he looks already and the competition in that wide receiver room, I'm not like. I think we touched on it a couple of weeks ago, where Jamar Chase was firmly off my draft board, and then he goes out there and he had like 4 or 5 drops. He doesn't look like he can separate, and he looks significantly smaller out there than I remember him looking in college, which Maybe it might be an orange and black versus a purple and gold thing. I don't know. But he looks not as big as I remember him. And I was ready to crown him like the greatest wide receiver coming out of college of all time. Was that a Justin Jefferson thing? Slightly. But I don't know what's going on with him. I love T. Higgins. I don't think he's a top 12 guy. Maybe in a year or so. And Tyler Boyd's underrated, but once again, they're going to try to get Jamar Chase going a little bit. And T. Higgins, I feel like, the one. Tyler Boyd doesn't get the respect, so I like the take. I think Joe Mixon's the only guy that's kind of sketchy for you.
I would say Joe Mixon's he's the one that could break it for me, but that's going to require him to stay healthy. If he can't stay healthy and string together a 14-plus game season, it's not going to happen.
He needs at least 14 games, and I mean that dude's walking soft tissue injuries.
Exactly.
So.
All right, let's move into hot take number 3 for you.
Yeah, Gus Edwards finishes outside. I said the top 25 and like the top 30 I wanted to say, but like I don't know, man. I don't get like I love Gus Edwards as like a closing running back, but the way their offense is set up, it doesn't bode well for Gus Edwards to me. I think that Lamar Jackson, we know, struggles getting the ball out to a running back on a swing pass, and Gus Edwards struggles catching swing passes. The problem is there's not a whole lot of leeway for guys that are strictly running backs that can't catch the ball out of the backfield. And after J.K. Dobbins goes down, people are thinking Gus Edwards is a top 20 guy. So you know what? I'm going to say Gus Edwards finishes outside the top 27. Because
I like that.
I don't know what to think of him. He had less PPR points than I think Todd Gurley last year, which is bad, which is actually terrible. And I don't think that the Ravens go the entire year with just Gus Edwards as their main guy. So I like people that are going for the zero RB approach, but the guys that you thought were going to win you your league are going to get competition eventually. And today's cutdown day. There hasn't been too many running backs to get cut so far. I think I only saw Wayne Gallman get cut, but there's going to be a lot of moving parts in the next couple of days, and it wouldn't shock me at all if the Ravens brought in another running back. I like the way Gus used to kind of be like, it's the fourth quarter, we need to run the ball down their throat. But he literally has had 3 straight years of him having like 140 carries for like 700 yards. He's a 5 yards per carry guy. He seems like a great complimentary running back, but don't draft him as like an RB2. It's going to probably crush your season.
All right, guys, you heard it here first. It'll be the title of the video, Wayne Gallman to the Baltimore Ravens. All right, on to my third take, and this one shouldn't surprise any of you guys, especially if you're a longtime listener of the channel. Tyler Higbee's going to finish as a top 5 tight end. I could not miss this video without some sort of Tyler Higbee take. And you're going to like my other take at the end of it because you're going to love that. Yeah, you're just going to love it. Tyler Higbee, top 5 tight end. Matt Stafford comes to town. If you're in a home league, Tyler Higbee might not get like drafted if everyone's not completely knowing what's going on. Not saying he won't get drafted, but it's going to be later than he should go and get drafted. He's like my 6th or 7th tight end ranked. Top 5 is not out of the question where I have him ranked. Last year with Matt Stafford, TJ Hawkinson had 67 catches for over 700 yards. That's a pretty good season. Matt Stafford likes to throw to his tight ends. The Rams just lost Cam Akers. They're having this running back debacle with Darrell Henderson, and they bring in Sony Michel. It's not going to be the same as if they had Cam Akers or when they had Todd Gurley. It's not going to be the same. They finally have a quarterback that is competent to get all the pass catchers involved, and that can be the focal point of their offense with Cooper Kupp, with Robert Woods, and with Tyler Higbee, with Gerald Everett gone, who's in his own place over in Seattle. I think he'll be very well there, but Tyler Higbee finally has the stage to be able to be a highly targeted option in this offense, a guy that can see 5 to 6 to 7 targets a game. He really could, and then the touchdown upside with Matthew Stafford is huge. They're going to want to throw the ball more in the red zone than they have in the past. Their run game had been more prominent. I think Matt Stafford coming to town, it's going to flip. They're going to throw the ball a lot more. Sean McVay has been looking for a quarterback like Matt Stafford. I think Matt Stafford is like his dream quarterback that he can have on his team. And Matt Stafford's not as old as people talk about him. He could be on the Rams for 7 more seasons. That's kind of crazy, but like He could be. If he wants to play football long enough and he stays healthy, he definitely could be. But Tyler Higbee is going to be there this year, and he's going to bode all the dividends of Matthew Stafford offense. And I don't think 65 catches and 700 yards is out of the question. And then let's toss in 7 touchdowns. Guys, that's going to make you a top 5 tight end in fantasy football. I mean, that's going to do it. It's going to be real close. If it goes any higher than that, you know, he's not going to touch Waller, and he's not. I've seen some people say, bold prediction, Higbee number 1 tight end. He's not going to touch Travis Kelce. He's just not. It's not going to get there. These guys are the number 1 target on the team, and I think Woods and Kupps have something else to say about that. But Higbee as a top 5 option getting drafted as the tight end 8 in a pretty sharp league. In your home league, probably 10 or later. If you're watching this video and you haven't drafted yet, be on the lookout for him. You know, maybe consider passing on one of those top 3 and wait for a guy like this down there in round 8, 9, 10, depending on in your league where he ends up going, where he's slipping. But I'd capitalize on that. Matthew Stafford's always liked to throw his tight ends. Unfortunately, up until Hockenson, he didn't really have too many tight end options. But I firmly think he enjoyed throwing to Hockenson last year in Detroit. He's going to go down to L.A., and he's going to enjoy throwing to Tyler Higbee. I think Hockenson's a better player overall, but I think Tyler Higbee finishes ahead of Hockenson this year just because of the offense. They're swapping quarterbacks. Jared Goff throwing to Hockenson should be okay, but I like the Stafford-Higbee combination a little better. So that's my third bold take.
One, I think I completely blew by my hot take about Cooper Kupp being a wide receiver in the top 5.
Hot take number 4 for Ryan. Here it is.
Cooper Kupp, wide receiver. He's going to be a top 5 wide receiver. And, I mean, a lot of the things you just touched on with Tyler Higbee are still true. Cooper Kupp. And Cooper Kupp's like a year removed from being a top 3 wide receiver. And now he's getting drafted at like wide receiver like 26.
Ryan. People forgot about that, and I forgot about that until right now.
You forgot.
I forgot he was that good.
He was nasty. And
yeah,
like
with Jared Goff.
I understand that like Cooper Kupp was like friends with Jared Goff. I think they lived together or something. There was a strange relationship between the two. The friendship and being in an Xbox Live party doesn't get you open as frequently as Cooper Kupp does. I think he was on his targets. He was like deemed wide open 50% of the time. He's open all the time, and they scheme him open all the time. Jared Goff stinks, and Cooper Kupp is a very good wide receiver. I don't really even have to break down more stats for you than knowing that Matt Stafford has had all-time wide receivers. When I say that, I mean he had Calvin Johnson, and then he made Kenny Golladay not look like a bum. I really do think that Cooper Kupp's a top 5 wide receiver talent, and having a quarterback that can actually find him in stride and let him run after the catch was going to pay unbelievable dividends. Jared Goff Cooper Kupp almost had to fair catch passes because Jared Goff is just a terrible thrower of the football. I'm very excited for Matt Stafford, and it's going to be really interesting to see how many games they get out of Deshaun Jackson too, because if they get 6 or 7 games out of Deshaun Jackson and he takes the top off for those guys, they may score 50 in every single one of those games. I'm very excited for that offense.
Love that. I think after that bold prediction, I'm going to draft a lot more Cooper Kupp in the upcoming draft that I have. So that's going to happen. My next bold take, we're both going to hate it. I hate it. You're going to hate it. And it might be one of the more bold ones. But Terry McLaurin will not finish as a top 24 wide receiver. And that's very bold because Terry McLaurin is the type of player that as long as there is a competent thrower of the football, he will get open and he will make plays after the catch. He's very quick. He's just very dynamic. He'll get it done. It seems like you can like chalk up 1,100 plus yards undoubtedly for a guy like Terry McLaurin. Here's the hot take portion of this. As high as I am on a sleeper like Ryan Fitzpatrick, let's say, and that's part of this bold take, he doesn't make it halfway through the season before being benched. He flames out. He's out. The fire's out. The cool Ryan Fitzpatrick that we know and love that has bounced from team to team and produced fantasy goodness doesn't carry on to this team. to the Washington football team. We're hyping up this offense with Curtis Samuel, with Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, and Ryan Fitzpatrick is throwing a lot of interceptions. And they have a young guy in Taylor Heineke behind that they want to give a try. Ryan Fitzpatrick isn't going to be there forever, but maybe they have a guy that can show some upside. Maybe that happens, and Terry McLaurin is not because of him, but because of the thrower of the football isn't putting up the numbers we all drafted him to be. I think he's going around maybe wide receiver 15, if I'm just guessing, based off the offseason ADP, maybe around there. Outside the top 24. If he finishes wide receiver 25, it's still a pretty good season when it comes to yardage and most likely touchdowns. But if he's not like catching a lot of touchdowns and he's not seeing the yardage because the quarterback is struggling, outside the top 24 isn't out of the question. I don't think it's going to happen. That's why I would say it's more bold. Because I really like Terry McLaurin. I think he's a fantastic player, and I think him and Ryan Fitzpatrick will have a great combination. But there is a possibility that Ryan Fitzpatrick isn't the same guy that we saw in Tampa, come in there and start chucking bombs to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, or going down to Miami and making Devontae Parker a thing, and even further back, the Jets with Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall. Maybe he's not the same guy when he goes to Washington. And I think he is the same guy because that's just who Ryan Fitzpatrick is. He comes through, he's Fitzmagic. But boldly, doesn't finish the season. Taylor Heineke comes in. He's pretty vanilla. And Terry McLaurin just has to coast through and do his job and play wide receiver. Unfortunately, doesn't get to rack up the stats. So, bold prediction number 4. It's very smug. I ruined the vibe of these bold predictions with that one. And I'm sorry. I apologize to the listeners. I apologize to you, Ryan.
It's fine. I don't love it. We know this. We've talked about Scary Terry for 2 years at this point. It stings. And another guy that I love that I feel like is going to have a season that doesn't live up to at least his ADP. He's going to help his team win hopefully a couple games, is George Kittle. I think he finishes outside the top 5 at tight end.
Oh, your guy.
Yeah. I hate the offense. I'm not going to lie. At least for George Kittle, I hate it. It's disgusting. One, there's a chance we see a rookie quarterback pretty early. I think that Jimmy Garoppolo has to go. He's got to win 2/3 of the games minimum to stay in there. If he flirts with 500 at any point in the year, I think they go to Lance. I don't think Lance is ready, and I think that's a mistake if they go to him. On top of that, they're going to run the ball 500 times. George Kittle is the best tight end in the NFL. Overall, best tight end. He's an unbelievable blocking tight end. And unfortunately for fantasy drafters, those don't get you any points. When he pancakes somebody and then goes nuts, if he blocks somebody into the end zone and you hear him screaming about how excited he was, it doesn't get you anything. And he's really good at that. And the way that offense is set up is they're going to run the ball a lot. And on top of that, the big George Kittle year, they didn't have outside weapons like they do now. And that sucks. And George Kittle, not a touchdown scorer. There's a couple guys coming up that are probably going to be in the same area of yards as George Kittle. Kyle Pitts going to be right there. TJ Hawkinson has a very good chance, and he's probably going to score more touchdowns. I don't love taking Kittle in, I guess, like the 3rd round because he's not going to get you a 3rd round value when you can get other guys in the 5th and 6th, and you can get somebody better in the 3rd round. So, unfortunately, George Kittle's the best overall tight end in the NFL, but he's going to be outside the top 5 this year for fantasy football.
Dude, their last preseason game, their run-to-pass ratio was like 70-30. I mean, there was like 9 guys that took running back snaps, and they rushed the ball almost 50 times. And you have a quarterback, Trey Lance, who needs reps, and I think he threw the ball like 12 times. Like,
I get it. The offense is really good at what they do, but unless you're getting Trey Sermon or Raheem Mostert with the back injury, I'm staying away from that team just because, one, you're relying on Jimmy Garoppolo, who's bad. I mean, we're very aware that Jimmy Garoppolo is bad, and they know that too. I mean, The one playoff game, what did he throw 8 times? It was like he threw 8 times the entire game. That didn't change a whole lot. Not much has changed. I I don't love that. And then if it's not Jimmy G, it's a rookie quarterback from a D1 double A or whatever they call it now school, who is raw, who threw 60 times in college, a la Mitch Trubisky, who needs reps. And I don't think that they're going to just start airing it out with him, even though his arm is huge. So Kittle is a fade for me, and I hate it. I hate it so much, Steve.
All right, well, I got one more bold prediction, and it's quick. It's just something I do want to mention. It's a guy we're both a fan of, and that's Chase Claypool finishes the top 8 wide receiver.
Oh, okay, a positive one.
Top 8, yeah, we're back. We're riding the roller coaster back up. We're getting ready to go down, but not in a bad way, in like a fun way, all right? Out to the end of the video. Chase Claypool, top 8 wide receiver. I really like what we've seen in the preseason with the Steelers. They've not held back with playing their starters. We've gotten to see them, and Chase Claypool looks great. I mean, he looks like he's ready to take a step. He's more of the body type compared to like Deontay Johnson or Juju Smith-Schuster to really make a difference in a game, especially on the outside. I think he can catch a lot of touchdown passes this year. I'm predicting 10 plus, which if I'm getting real bold, making him top 8 receiver, I think he's going to do it with touchdowns too. 13 plus touchdowns. And this guy is flying over the 1,100 yard mark. If he finishes at 1,313, that's got to be, that's top 8, right?
Oh, I think so. That's got to be top 8, 100%.
Easy. I mean, with the touchdowns and the yardage combo, I mean, that's. Yeah. Oh, I mean, if I said 13, I said 13 touchdowns. That's a lot. That's definitely
that is a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, that's a lot. But I really like this passing attack. I know they got Najee Harris there. Worried about the offensive line still, as I should be. Talking more about Najee Harris doesn't make the offensive line better. They're going to give him volume because they want to run the ball more, so they're going to try. But there's going to be a point where Big Ben says, screw this, I'm throwing the ball. And he's not going to go against the playbook or anything or what the play is called. But they're going to throw the ball a lot just like they did last year. Deontay Johnson is one of the highest targeted receivers in the league. I think some of those targets go to Chase Claypool this year. I think he's ready. Last year was an acclimation period, and he was great. This year he's coming in. I think he's a wide receiver 1 on the team. If he can stay healthy, I really like him to be in the top 10. Top 8's my bold prediction. So Chase Claypool, go get him where you can. I think he's getting kind of not looked over or looked past, but I think there are some guys like Jamar Chase, like T. Higgins that are kind of right there with them that you're seriously going to want to consider passing on them to draft a guy like Chase Claypool. You know, Brandon Ayuk is right there. I like Claypool over him. So Chase Claypool, top 8. I like that a lot. So
I love it, Steve.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it because Big Ben is a jerk generally, and he's not going to run the ball. It's his way or the highway. We've seen it with about 17 backup quarterbacks. I mean, Big Ben's slinging, baby, and Claypool is the best wide receiver there. So if he finds the end zone 13 times, he's right there.
All right, well, there you had it. There is our bold predictions for the 2021 fantasy football season. Drop a comment of your bold predictions, and we'll tell you how we feel about them in response to that comment. Like the video if you enjoyed today's video, and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate it. Don't forget to sub, because next week we're helping you out starting sits for your lineup for week 1. Come out with a dub. Come out strong. You don't want to be that 0-3 team. Join the clan over here on the YouTube channel. Climb the Pocket. We're going to help you win your fantasy football championships. We'll see you guys next week.